Welcome to the Real Retirees of New Jersey, powered by Liberty Financial Group and Artemis Wealth Advisors. Randy and Peggy Fisher want to help you retire once and retire right. Get more information at therealretireesofnewjersey.com. They never throw the first punch, but they're always a knockout.
Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for downloading. But most importantly, thanks for listening. This is the Real Retirees of New Jersey podcast with Peggy and Randy Fisher. It's all powered by Liberty Financial Group and Artemis Wealth Advisors. You can get more when you visit therealretireesofnewjersey.com. You can find that and all the information here in the show notes. My name is Mark Owens. Now, let's get to the show. Randy Fisher, Peggy Fisher, hope this weekend is treating you well and you're getting ready to get your rock on.
I am ready to get my rock on. Woo!
When is this show? Not you.
I am going to Metallica.
And I'm getting dragged with her.
Yes, so that is fun. These are the things about husbands and wives, right?
Happy life, happy wife.
Right. Randy does not like heavy metal or Metallica, but he is doing his wife a great favor.
Sometimes I don't even like you.
Bought her these wonderful tickets, 9th row, Lincoln Field, Philly. We're ready to go.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Randy.
Ready to go to proctology.
Randy Love is my son's asked him, Daddy, you bringing like your earplugs so you don't have to listen to it?
I think I'm going to have 3 hours of podcast while Metallica's playing.
That's what he said he was going to do.
We're going to pan the crowd and Peggy's got like the devil rock horns going and Randy's reading a book.
Absolutely. Yes.
Chapter 7 of Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Exactly.
I got research to do.
Randy, what's your music? What's your style? I figured you'd be a Metallica fan, a rock fan.
No.
No?
I basically listen to everything. It's just, I just can't get too much of it. It's like I can go anything from classical, I don't know, Frank Sinatra to classic rock to yacht rock to
I love yacht rock.
Today's hits to country.
Sure.
I'm all over the place, but it's just
Is it the concert going experience? Because I think, and I don't want this to sound like boomer talk here, with the real retirees. But I've almost reached a point where I'm like, going to a concert is almost more of a chore than it is fun.
I've never been a fan of going to concerts. I don't care who it is, where it is.
It is a chore.
That's my problem.
It is a chore.
Yeah.
Though I do have to say certain concerts are like really fun in that I do love.
It is good for people watching.
Yeah, it is. Oh, it's definitely good for people watching.
Right.
And it's funny because we talk about a band like Metallica, right? And that's not really for the retirees, I guess.
Sure.
But it's funny how you go to this concert and you do see, my point being is you do see anywhere from 18-year-olds to
there'll be 65-year-olds. Yes.
Yes, it's crazy. That's one of the things I love about going to it now, because I remember back in my day when I was 16, 17, going to those concerts, high hair and freaking, and crazy rock shirts. Where now it's like you'll see people in suits, you'll see people in crazy rock shirts, so you look like they're still from the 80s, you know what I mean? But it's such a great mix, and I just absolutely love it.
Look, people used to make fun of Jimmy Buffett concerts and tailgating in that parking lot. There's more wealth in that parking lot than in most high-rise buildings.
You are absolutely right on that. Spot on. Absolutely.
Yep. Speaking of concerts, I am going out to Vegas to go see Kenny Chesney. He starts his residency at the Sphere. Yeah.
At the Sphere. That's going to be amazing.
We haven't been together with Kenny in a while.
Randy, I kind of feel your pain because where Peggy is a diehard Metallica fan, my wife Gretchen is a diehard Coldplay fan. So I've dragged her to enough bad country concerts over the year. All she wanted to do is to go see Coldplay. So we bit the bullet and bought, we could either pay our mortgage or go to this concert. And it's not even that, it's the fees. We're going to get into fees here in just a couple of minutes, but it's the fees that are absolutely killing me. But let's get to it here. 908-844-8337. We could talk music all weekend long here. The Real Retirees of New Jersey.com. But it's all about what makes you happy, what experiences, what moments in life, what makes you happy, and what's fun for you. And I want you to define the difference between being rich and being wealthy, because there is a misconception, Randy Fisher, Peggy Fisher, of what you do, how you serve the community, because people will give you their portfolio and they say, y'all go make me rich. It doesn't work like that. There's so much more to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's funny because you say, so what is rich? So rich typically suggests having maybe a high income, a lavish lifestyle, sometimes often focused on maybe spending, enjoying possessions, right? Where wealthy, on the other hand, may apply about substantial assets and investments and leading to long-term financial security. And I think that's where we're right in the wheelhouse.
Right. What about you? What say you, Randy?
I don't know. I guess it depends on which way you're thinking about it, right? I mean, rich, I believe that, I equate rich with money.
Yeah. Focus on incoming spending. Maybe.
Wealthy.
Yeah.
you can look at it as generational. You look at it from that standpoint.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of, I always tell my kids, you're not rich. I am. This is my money, not yours. Right. You didn't work your ass off for it. We did. Mm-hmm. So, you go out and get a job and then we'll figure out if you're going to become rich or wealthy later. They could potentially become wealthy if I drop dead tomorrow. That's an entirely different story, right?
Yep.
Peggy, check my tea real quick before I sip on it.
Exactly.
And then there's other, I guess, definitions or levels of being rich versus being wealthy, right? I mean, you can be cash poor and you can be ultra property rich, right? So you can have so much property and so much land, you don't know what to do with yourself. But if it is not usable and it's what we would consider more or less a dead asset, you're extremely wealthy. Is it rich in terms of can you potentially use it? So when I think of rich, I'm thinking of what are the resources in which I can use on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year basis.
Right, tied to income, right?
Wealth,
exactly.
To me, is more net worth.
Yes, exactly. The assets minus any liabilities, of course, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But read good.
Yeah. No.
She just gave me the finger.
That's a New Jersey
We're not going to get thrown off the air for that one, are we?
Nobody could see it. You're fine. It's just
couldn't see it.
We're all friends here.
And she did it again.
908-844
Happy wife, happy life.
37. Have fun at Metallica. See, for me, in my phase of life that I'm in right now, for me, being wealthy is being able to pay my bills without stressing out. Like, I know that with summertime here, it's going to heat up. We're going to crank the air down. If I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm sweating, that's going to ruin my day. So I know our power bill is going to be a little bit more expensive. If I can pay that bill without freaking out, without having to move money around or, hey, we can't buy this. If I can just pay the bills without worry, to me, that's wealthy.
Yeah. Well, wealthy, like you said, like equating that to our clients, I would say that's more of like the people who have long-term financial stability, maybe, right? They've saved, they have...
Well, they have an ample amount of resources, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'll give you an example. What's the difference between rich and wealthy if you look at it from a standpoint of someone's got $1 million, $2 million 401k.
Yeah.
And they're 50 years old, right? I mean, that's pretty wealthy, right? Mm-hmm. Are they rich? Can they access that money right away at 50 and use it? Not really, right? Because guess who was the primary beneficiary of that money? Uncle Sam.
Yeah, no.
Right? So, I mean, are you wealthy? Yeah, you're wealthy, but you don't have the resources in which you can instantly create cash flow or to create opportunity.
Right.
Right? I want to go out and buy a car with a $1.5 million 401k. Is that a smart move? No. Am I going to go buy a shore house or a rental house on my 401k dollar? No. That's stupid. Again, that's wealth. Right. But it's not being rich.
Well, rich means like having a lot of money. The way I think of it, like right now, where the wealthy could be like, you've had, real estate, passive income, you've had earnings, you were generating assets to make you wealthy.
Rich individuals have high spending habits.
Yes.
Right. Put it that way. So more people that believe that they are rich, they splurge.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
They indulge. They buy things. They're consumers. They travel, they go places, they do things.
They like luxury goods, experiences, things like that. Yep. You know what I mean? Yep. Right.
All right. So tell me this. So it also boils down to everybody's plan is different because for somebody, being wealthy is the ability to take a round the world cruise twice a year. But as somebody else being wealthy could be just spending more time with the grandkids. So I think it's worth noting that at Artemis Wealth Advisors, Liberty Financial Group, you, Randy, you, Peggy, you build these portfolios to find whatever defines wealth for us.
Sure. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Rich can be temporary, right? It could be a temporary state of income. It could be a temporary windfall. But, for the most part, wealth is for a longer term period of time. That's what if I would say that what would we do? We create wealth.
Absolutely.
Right? We create long-term wealth.
Wealth.
That too.
Wealth.
With a plan, right? So
Absolutely.
That's what it is. Absolutely. We create a plan to create that wealth for you. Absolutely.
908-844-8337. Kind of a what you do and who you serve in the surrounding area here on the Real Retirees of New Jersey with Peggy and Randy Fisher, all powered by Artemis Wealth Advisors, Liberty Financial Group. Again, we have a representative standing by right now to take advantage of that. No cost, no obligation consultation when you call this weekend. Again, that number, 908-844-8337, the Real Retirees of New Jersey.com. And speaking of, what is going on at Newark Liberty International Airport?
That's a cluster, whatever you want to call it.
That's called a show.
Yeah. It's
What?
FUBAR.
Well, no, it's funny that you bring it up because we're weeks into this now, right,
my
with the
gosh,
news.
every day.
But on Easter week, when we flew back from Florida, back into Newark, and when we were in what airport were we in Florida?
Fort Myers.
They're like, oh, you're delayed. Oh, you're delayed. That we had a 7-hour delay. We were supposed to take off early evening, midnight.
Well, they told you it was for construction.
They said it was construction.
That was BS.
But now we know too, not only construction, but I don't know if there's air traffic controllers in the towers.
There was nobody
over
there. Nobody.
There was nobody.
Nobody.
Somehow we got in though.
They were all hunting. They were all hunting for Easter eggs.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a very scary thing, right? To think for 90 seconds maybe. Can you imagine? Well, it's funny. Our son-in-law is a pilot, and I just asked him this question yesterday. It's funny that you bring this up. I said, me and your father-in-law are going to be flying out in June. Should I be flying out of Newark Liberty? Is this like a safe thing? He goes, go to Philly. I said, okay. He's like, yeah, it is. It is that. I think it is that bad. He said, just flying in and out of
Every
there.
day there's
chaotic.
something goes on.
It's just chaotic.
Which I'm flabbergasted because now we're just hearing about this crap.
Pretty suspect that timing, right?
Yes, exactly.
I understand.
Exactly.
Okay, but let's kind of revert that and turn that into what you do for the families you serve. I mean, it's an absolute mess. Delays, cancellations. What if you sit down with somebody and you take a look at their portfolio and it looks like that TSA? It looks like that control tower. It is an absolute mess. It may be lost for Liberty, but for you, how do you help them get back on track?
Well, what we always start here, and we tell all of our clients, even when we have our workshops, one thing that we always offer to anyone coming in new is what we call an X-ray portfolio. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we take what you have and we put it into this X-ray portfolio so you can see exactly what chaos or you do or don't have, right, Rance? To see what it is. And that's the best way to do it because we take what you have, put it into this program, and we'll let you know, what are your fees? What are you being charged? Are you good? Are you bad? Do you need something? Do you not need something? So it takes everything into account, and that way we can show the client, the chaos or messy portfolio that they have, right?
No, we hear so many times where people get together or they're willing to potentially switch advisors. And we say, okay, well, why did you go from advisor A to advisor B? Well, I didn't really like advisor A for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 reasons. But when I got to advisor B, they just instantaneously changed my portfolio to something that they thought they needed to change it to. And my next question is, why? What did they do and why did they do it? And the reason why we actually do a portfolio x-ray is twofold. Number one, for the most part, is to supply value, right? Fees in the absence of value are fees. Right. If we're going to charge somebody something, then we may as well give you the most value you can possibly get. We call that alpha in this industry. But what we want to do is we want to supply value. In doing that, it would be equivalent of going to a new doctor and the doctor walks through the door and says, hi, nice to meet you. Take these pills. I'll see you in 3 weeks. And you say, doc, I didn't even open my mouth yet to figure out what the problem is. He says, no problem. I already know what it is. You're like everybody else. Yeah. That would be similar to our industry. And we find out that 9 out of 10 people that get together with a new advisor or an advisor that they've been passed along to or orphaned to or in a bank or wherever they are, they're just provided blanket cookie cutter approaches, right? So just like you don't want to go to a doctor and get handed a box of pills or prescribed a date for an operation for a procedure that you may or may not need. Yeah. It's the same subject when it comes down to financial advising. How do we know what changes we need to make? What do we need to incorporate into your portfolio? What do we need to remove from the portfolio? Are there redundancies? Are there overlap? There's a lot of different things. The messy portfolio that you just described, Mark, basically it's a lot of a lot and it's chaos. Yeah, right. There's zero construction to the entire portfolio. And we find that a lot of people do have messy portfolios because all they've really been doing over the course of their lifetime is accumulating, right? Think about this. If I asked you to move tomorrow, how much stuff do you have in your house?
I have a lot of stuff.
We have a lot of crap.
We have a lot.
Right? A lot. Like truckloads of crap.
That's right. But you want to take that and organize it. So
we find out in people's portfolios.
Exactly.
Because they've accumulated a bunch of crap. Sometimes it was good, but if you didn't know why you bought it or what you used it for or what it was supposed to be in your portfolio to accomplish, eventually it either becomes outdated or it's not actually coordinated with your other pieces of the portfolio. So they become conflicting pieces of equipment.
Okay, hold on, Randy. I don't want to interrupt you there, but you said you find a ton of quote-unquote crap in people's portfolio. 908-844-8337. Give me some examples of some of the unnecessary fluff you find in people's portfolio, because somebody's listening right now and you're talking to them.
Predominantly?
Fees.
Fees are number one.
Yes,
number
100%.
two, overlap.
Yes.
What do I mean by overlap? Some people come in the door and they say, well, oh my gosh, I'm so diversified. I am so set. My advisors have been telling me that I have a lot, and there's nothing that can go wrong.
And me and my husband have the same of a lot.
That happens all the time, where they have duplication.
Right. And then we say to them, okay, that's great. So when the market's going up, you're both doing great. But what happens when the market goes down?
Right.
Now you're both going down?
Yeah. When you have overlap, what that means is, let's say I have mutual fund A, mutual fund B, mutual fund C. Mm-hmm. In all three mutual funds, the top 10 holdings are pretty much all the same. My next question is, why do I own number 1, number 2, and number 3 if they're all the same? Right? So there's no diversification there other than the fact that you have a lot of the same thing. So what it really comes down to is you have a focused portfolio, not a diversified portfolio. But people are tricked in thinking that because they have 4, 5, 6 different mutual funds, that they don't have overlap. The overlap is what really causes a lot of problems and a lot of heartburn in your portfolios, ladies and gentlemen, because as Peggy just mentioned, when the market's going up, guess what? You have mistake opportunities that you can still live by, because when we're rising, no problem. In fact, you really don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, but the scary thing
when
is
it
what
goes
happens down. Right, exactly.
You know, Warren Buffett used to say, you finally figure out who's actually bathing naked when the tide goes out.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's the same concept. You really will find out how delicate that your portfolio really is, or how sensitive your portfolio really is when the market reacts negatively, either in a bubble, a decline, a bear market, a recession, a depression, right? Or worse. So in all of those items, what you really want to make sure is that you have a good diversification and an allocation of your assets across certain boards that will match your risk tolerance. I hate the word tolerance, right?
If you look up tolerance, but with the way, not even tolerance, Rand, I think the way we look at it is what can make your head rest easy at night?
Sleep insurance.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
In other words, how much are you willing to lose in your portfolio before you become uncomfortable and queasy?
Right.
That's a different way of looking at it, right?
Yeah.
If you did look at it from that standpoint, most people, listen, everybody, I've never met one person that says, yeah, I like losing money. Nobody's ever said that to us. Yeah. Nobody. But there must be a willingness to part ways temporarily with a value in order to believe that sometime in the future, your value will be more than it is today.
Right.
That's the risk-reward relationship and the coordination between your portfolio. Some people want to make sure that they have risk in their portfolio in order to collect a return. Most people we meet have far too much risk in their portfolio, and they're taking more risk than they need to, and they're not getting into return compensation for it.
And we find that in almost every client.
Almost everybody.
Every client that comes in
Almost
here.
everybody.
Absolutely.
Fees. I mean, is that one of the biggest damage killers to any portfolio?
It's a big one.
100%. It's the biggest.
Yeah, definitely a big
and we
one.
have so many clients that come in here and go, oh, no, I'm not being charged
I don't get any fees.
I don't get fees.
Really?
I'm not being charged that fee.
Who manages your money? Red
Yes,
Cross?
that's what Randy always says. He goes, I don't think Red Cross is coming in to help you with your portfolio.
Last time I looked, every single one of the companies you have are a profit-making facility.
And then when we do that X-ray portfolio, we show them where all the fees are being, and that's
Most
when
people
they're
don't know where to look.
And that's where I like to look at their faces from across the conference table, because it's crazy how shocked that they really are.
Well, the industry is built on disguising where fees are.
Well, yeah,
right?
where they're hidden, right?
Most people think that if it's not on their sheet of paper or their statement, then there are none.
Yeah,
and that's not true. So it's the first, 8 million pages that you actually sign when you actually sign into a brokerage agreement. It's the prospectuses in which you receive every 13 months for some of the investments in which you're involved in. Every single one of those items have a disclosure as to where you can find the fees and how deep these things go.
Yes.
And you can even get even more ingrained into the details of fees when it comes down to what are the commission rates between the bid and the ask price and stuff like that, between the individual equities in which you're purchasing. Mutual funds, ladies and gentlemen, are infested with fees. Infested.
Yeah, like termites.
People don't realize it. They're like, oh, I got a mutual funds. I love mutual funds. They're the best thing since sliced bread. Mutual funds are basically like a tricycle. It's training wheel bikes for people to get into the market. If you've been doing it for a while, wonderful. They're a great place to be if you want to even try to do it yourself with no load funds, Vanguard, things like that. So if you're managing it, you want to keep your costs low, you're cutting out all the middlemen. But if you actually have a broker or an advisor, he or she's charging you a fee and you're in mutual funds, ladies and gentlemen, take our number down. It's time to leave. You will make more money by just porting your portfolio over and using a proper tool, which will reduce the fees, costs, and charges within your portfolio.
Yeah, and let us do that X-ray portfolio because that can help us see all of your fees, everything that you're paying for.
And let me disclose this. The report's not from Artemis Wealth Advisors or Liberty Financial Group. It's by an independent company, which doesn't have mutual funds, that doesn't have anything. It's an independent arbitrator, basically tells you the facts. The facts, and I always love when people say this. Oh, I don't know where you got that information from. Well, here it is.
Yeah, it is. Right in front of you, black and white.
It's right in front of you, black and white. Yeah. I didn't make it up. Here it is.
But that just goes to show you how shocked that they are, that they think that they're, not getting charged any of these fees, but we
and sometimes that disbelief leads to analysis paralysis.
That's
right?
Correct.
They're like, no, that can't be right. Mm-hmm. I got to go figure this out. I got to go contact my person. I got to go figure this out. So then they go back and they talk to the advisor in which they're at, and they give them the blanket statement. No, I charge you 1%. No, that's not the question.
Yeah.
But that's not a wrong answer. But it's not the question, right?
Yeah. Where are the hidden fees?
Anybody have like high school kids out there and teenagers?
I do.
If you don't ask the right question, you don't get the right answer, right? You're laughing, Mark, right?
Seems like, Mark, you know that one, huh?
Am I right or wrong? So you can ask a question, you're going to get an answer. But if you don't ask the exact specific question that you're looking for, you're not going to get that right answer. It's the same concept when you deal with your broker or anybody else that's out there that just wants to give you a blanket answer that doesn't want to lie to you, but they don't want to disclose the truth.
And just like a teenager, a client can have that blank face too and be like, what? Yeah.
When most people figure out that they're in mutual funds and not only are they being charged an advisory fee, but they're also being charged 1.25%, 2% on top of that, that fee erodes the gain that you would have potentially collected, right? And over time, compound interest growth on that, it is a huge deal. I mean, it's a difference of thousands, sometimes tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of collected gain in which you can keep in your pocket or pay somebody else.
Randy, you're talking about asking questions and asking the right questions. Who should be doing the most of the talking in that first meeting?
What we like to do is, and most people who we talk to, they come in from our workshops too. So they've heard us for, 2.5 hours, right, Rand? Or the radio.
Or TV. Or billboard.
Or see us on the billboard.
Or referral.
So we say, come in with your statements. Let us see what you have. And we'd like to say, let's hear about you. And that's what we do. I mean,
absolutely. Right? It's going to be, I can't say it's an interrogation because nobody wants to be interrogated, right? But what we want to do is we want to talk as little as possible and we want to listen.
Yeah,
we'll ask some questions, some thought-provoking things, and we'll ask a lot of whys and how did you do this and where'd you come up with that and
and what's your plan and what would you like to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, absolutely.
It's definitely an eye-opening scenario for this reason. Number one, when you start to explain something to someone, anybody in any field, if you can explain it and you can teach it, then you personally understand it. So what I want to see is how well you actually understand your own personal financial condition as well as your portfolio.
Yeah, and that's when it becomes eye-opening too, because we'll ask the client, so what are the fees that are being charged? And they're like, nothing.
And we're going to get answers like, well, that's what I pay somebody for. Right. And you're absolutely correct. There's no doubt about that. But if I said I have a health issue, I'm going to know something about the health issue, even though I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
Right. If I have money, I'm going to know something about the money I have, even though I'm not the financial advisor.
Right.
Sure. Right. So it's that same generalized concept in which you have to have. You don't have to be an expert in it and you don't have to explain it to the T. But what you must have is an understanding of why you have something, what's the goal, what's the purpose, and why it's working, or potentially worse, why it's not.
We are an independent financial services firm helping individuals create retirement strategies using a variety of financial and insurance products to custom suit their needs and objectives. Investment advisor services offered through Artemis Wealth Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments can fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than when originally invested. Artemis Wealth Advisors is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Please consult with your attorney, accountant, and or tax advisor for advice concerning your particular circumstances. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Randolph A. Fisher, insurance license number 9616074, and Liberty Financial Group, LLC, and Peggy Fisher, national license number 189-42003 and 570-5833.